Hello, I'm Dr. Mike Cosgrave. I'm coordinator for the postgrad courses in the Department of Digital Humanities, and I teach quite a few modules in the master's program in the postgrad dip. So you will be seeing a fair bit of me in a number of different modules, mainly in the first half of the year. This year, all my teaching is online. And one of the courses I want to talk about here, to give you some idea of what's coming up in it, is Teaching and Learning in Digital Humanities. This is a course that's actually always been taught online since the original PhD program was created 10 years ago. And there was two reasons for this. One was I thought it was really important that people coming out of a PhD program knew something about how to teach and how to teach online. And it seemed to me that if you were going to teach people about that, the best way to do it was to do it online. You should walk the walk. So I've been walking the walk of this course for about 10 years, and the grooves are possibly too well worn in the road, but occasionally we go on a tangent and find interesting side tracks to go down and explore. So we're going to start off from the perspective of your personal understanding of what you've learned, how you learn, what your experiences have been, and what you're interested in teaching. It can be anything. The end goal is to have designed a course outline for a course on a topic that's interesting to you that will be delivered online to an adult learner or university age group audience. Younger audiences are more complicated because of the way in which learning operates in younger age groups. So there's a degree of technical knowledge required for teaching teenagers, for example, which we just don't have time to go into. But we will look at the building of online learning communities. One of the most important things about teaching a community or a class online or a course online is to get them to cohere together as a learning community. And we look at some of the ways in which you can build activities to start laying the foundations for that. And that, of course, also crosses over with some of the stuff I do in the core module on communities of practice. But then we go down a different road in that we look more at theories of teaching. So we look at the differences in terms of teaching as transmission versus teaching as exploration. We look at issues like transformational learning, which is very important for adult learners. For adult learners, very often the choice to do a course is a response to a particular challenge or crisis in life, and they are looking to come out with a different approach to the world in order to solve a problem. We're going to look at some topics like flipped classroom, research-based learning, blended learning. All of these are important topics. We're going to work through these week by week. So for every week, I will have some readings and a brief introduction and a discussion prompt, and we'll respond to those discussions in the forum. You'll all post every week. Ideally, people will post twice a week. They'll post an initial response and then they'll engage with the discussion as it moves around. We will look then, as we move along, through more stuff. Two things: theories, but also some very practical stuff like learning outcomes. Every module in the university has a set of learning outcomes. What are learning outcomes? What is the difference between learning outcomes and understanding goals? Big difference there in terms of where those two approaches come from, what they mean, how they're written. We're going to look at things like specific works on the use of technology in teaching and how specific technologies work for different types of tasks. We're going to look at the notion of the connected curriculum, the connections between an academic curriculum and the real world outside it, making sure that they're not existing in an ivory tower. We're going to look at things like assessments. How do you assess people? Assessment is much more than your traditional 1,500-word essay or 2.5-hour exam. In fact, there's less and less of that happening. There's much more emphasis on authentic assessment. If you're teaching a course on how to ride a bicycle, then an essay, write 1,500 words on how to ride a bicycle, is not an authentic assessment. The authentic assessment for that is get on a bicycle and ride it. And clearly for the first class honours, I guess you get to do wheelies or something. So the assessment should actually assess what you want people to learn. And we're going to look at that, and we're going to look at how you grade the assessment. We will look at the NUI grade descriptors. We'll look at assessment rubrics, grading rubrics for things like blogs, for discussions. There's a lot of common ground across them. But you will get a feel for how to write a set of guidelines for what constitutes a first and what constitutes a bare pass, and be somewhat more discriminating in how you do that. We look at a few other things as well. We're going to look at things called universal design for learning, which is really important for accessibility. We'll look at mobile learning. How do you design for mobile? How do you integrate mobile into learning? It's increasingly becoming more and more important when you're designing an online course, that you think about the fact that a substantial number of the people whom you're designing for will be consuming it on mobile phones, very often over patchy internet connections with limited connectivity. They'll be watching your stuff and reading your material on a bus. So we have to think about, how do you do that? What are the problems? How can you take advantage of that? So the end product, every week, the contributions to the discussion forums will be graded, and they will build up, because there's a sequence of things there in terms of designing activities, designing assessments, making it universal, different types of things you can use, which will all build up towards producing a course design. So you will get, for the discussion contributions in the first 4 weeks, 10% of the marks go. In the second 4 weeks, the middle part of the course, 20% of the marks. In the last 4 weeks, 30% of the marks. As you get up to speed, become more comfortable in the online discussions, as the material becomes more demanding, the marks go up. And there's 40% left at the end for your overall course design and your reflection on what you learned from doing the course, which is very important, that you gather together and be able to say, I learned this from doing this course. So that course design that you will have alongside your discussion postings, the course design will be an outline for a 12-week course. And the key part of that is, so that will be maybe a 1 or 2 page outline, but for 2 or 3 of those topics, you will produce a much more detailed outline of exactly how you will use technology in teaching that particular topic. And that's the distinctive part of it, that there's a challenge here to think about, how do I use tech to make an interesting experience, which is a completely different thing in many respects, offering many different challenges to just going in front of a classroom and standing in front of a group of people and actually doing it face to face. So you do learn, the skills are transferable in that you not only learn about how to develop and build online courses, but also, again, duplicating some of the communities of practice course that I also teach, how to make a learning community work and how to be thoughtful about making that work. And it is certainly these days a fairly high demand skill now, all of a sudden, as people have realized the importance of remote learning. Has suddenly become something that the world needs more of, and it needs people who know how to do it. So hopefully, in our own way, over the next 12 weeks or so of this course, you will learn a little about this and have a foundation, at least, in how to do the development of online learning and teaching and learning with technology. And hopefully we will have fun doing it. So I look forward to seeing you